Hi, this is Zach from Worn and Wound. Today I'll be taking a look at the Dievas Shadow. This is a really interesting watch from also a kind of an interesting brand. So Dievas is a brand of German-made watches that range from, they actually have some like vintage, almost Panerai homages to some kind of just funky watches to a series of these very kind of brutal-looking, tactical-inspired watches. Which they started with the now kind of very well respected Dievas Vortex, which you've probably seen, and there've been a few other models, and this is the most recent model, the Shadow. And what this watch offers is obviously this kind of low light stealth look with this very cool day glow tennis ball yellow indices and markings in this black DLC steel case. But this actually isn't normal steel. It's what they call 6 steel, which is their own brand of kind of extra hardened steel that is very abrasion resistant, very scratch resistant. And they're one of very few brands that really offer this, and I think they do so at a more affordable price point. So this watch is actually $1,450, which is clearly not an inexpensive watch, but for what it is, it's kind of an entry point into these tactical style watches. So let's take a closer look. The case of the Dievas Shadow has this very bold, tactical styling to it that if you're familiar with Cobalt, you'll probably have seen this design before, but it is kind of almost like a standard and very, well-crafted design for kind of a beefy, tough watch. So let's just talk about the size and everything. So it's a 45 millimeter diameter on it with a 54 millimeter lug to lug. And it's about 14.5 millimeters thick, making it a very large watch. But they've done some smart things to make it a more comfortable wear, such as putting the crown on the left side of the watch, and also just the matte black makes it look a little bit smaller than that size. So the case design, you have this very large bezel that sits over it. It's a 60 click bezel with really, 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 really nice machine feel to it. It snaps very sharply. I really like that detailing, and that's really what you'd want to see on a watch in this price range. It also very, very, very nicely transitions almost seamlessly into the double-domed anti-reflective sapphire crystal here. Once again, just great tolerances there, so craftsmanship is very high on this German-made watch. Then the case itself, from overhead is just a lot of bezel, and then you have these really thick, chunky lugs here, which are screw lugs. So there isn't a spring bar in here. There's a sturdy screw going through. That's once again just even more kind of strong and bold design. Here on the left side at about 8 o'clock, you have a large screw down 5 millimeter crown with crown guards on either side. It's very large and very easily graspable. Then also on this side of the watch, you can see there is a helium escape valve, if that's something you look for in a watch. So yeah, overall it's just a really, really nice, strong design. Very, very well finished, though it is pretty much just this black coating. But it's just very even, very nice, very matte. One thing that's interesting is actually, every part of the case, I don't know if you can really see the case back there, is made out of this extra hardened 6 steel, which they call it. But then over it, they actually, this DLC coating, which, DLC is standing for diamond-like coating, and they actually say it's actually harder than the steel itself. So this is really, a watch that can handle a little bit of an aggressive lifestyle, and obviously given the styling, 500-meter water resistance, something that beckons to be worn in, in an active environment. The dial of the Dievas Shadow is quite striking, as you can see. It's very, very black with this, matte black finish, and then these really shockingly bright day glow, fluorescent yellow, markings all around and hand markers. So it is a kind of a stealth watch with, at the same time, a really great legibility because it's nearly fluorescent. But as you can see, when I move the watch around a little bit, there is actually still quite a bit of detailing on the black dial, but that's all black and black as like a phantom watch, would normally be. So now just looking at the markings on the dial, the hours are all marked by these little shapes. So you have triangles at 12, 3, 6, and 9, and then circles or dots for the remaining hours. And then between them, there's actually gloss black lines, which you can ever so slightly see in the light. And then 12, 3, 6, and 9 are actually also printed on the dial, but that's actually in a different shade of black. One thing that's actually interesting, on their website, they talk about how there's actually 4 shades of black in the dial, just to kind of give it a little bit more texture. And then, it says Dievas automatic here, and above the date window there, shadow 500 millimeters. The very bottom, made in Germany. None of this, like I said, if you're looking at the watch straight on, you almost can't see any of these, which is an interesting effect. Your focus really is on the hands and the markers there. One of the, actually probably my favorite little details of the watch is the window here, the date window at 6 o'clock. As you can see, the date itself is printed in the same fluorescent yellow on a black wheel. It's really nice that they went the extra step to customize that. It really fits with the feeling of the watch more, and I think it's really nice, really smart move on their part. So now taking a look at the hands, you have these kind of large Roman sword style hands with a stick second hand, all coated in this like I said, tennis ball yellow lume, which is actually, as they say, a custom made super luminova pigment. So you're not going to see this exact color really anywhere else, and I think that actually adds really to the kind of the interesting character of the watch. Honestly, the rest of the dial could be totally black. These hands stand out so much that you can tell the time at a glance without them. Also, on the bezel here, from 60 or 0 through 15, that is all in a matching lume too. Now you can see the watch is powered by an ETA 2824-2 movement that has been regulated to an extra 5 positions, so to increase the the accuracy of the watch. There's no expense and no details really overlooked on this watch. So that's also a really nice touch from them. And they actually supposedly have a DLC coated rotor inside of the watch with the Dievas logo. You'll never see it. There's no display case back, but it just kind of they put their signature on it all the way through. Now for the lume of the watch, it's this bright yellow, and it glows a bright green. The hands glow really well, and everything else glows also, but not quite as brightly as the hands. But you can actually see how thick the super luminova is on the hands. And like I said, you only need those to really see the time because they're so strong and so powerful. On the wrist, the shadow has a ton of presence. It's a really striking watch, given its palette of black and day glow yellow, and it's very geometric, very harsh, and it simply has this kind of badass, sort of like aggressive masculine look to it, which I think is very cool, and obviously would be what attracts you to this style of watch. As far as wearability goes, it's actually very comfortable. It's larger than a watch that I would normally put on at 45 millimeters by 54, but I think it actually is designed very ergonomically. It sits very nicely on the wrist. Having the crown back here, makes it much more comfortable. So, that would be digging into my hand, but it's not. So all that, comes together to make a watch that you can wear very easily. 14.5 millimeters is thick, but honestly, I don't think feel as thick as that. Maybe that's because, it's a very gentle slope up. It can almost fit under a sleeve, but it doesn't really fit under this too well. And that's actually because of the thickness of the strap. But I don't really see this as a watch that one would necessarily, wear with a work shirt or something. This is, a sporty watch that you wear around, on the weekend when you're doing, different things, or, well, obviously it depends on what you do. But so now just taking a look at the strap, it's a 22 millimeter lug width here, and it comes with this really nice molded, branded, anti-static Italian rubber strap. I think this is a really nice strap that really matches the aesthetic well. The matte black goes well with the black of the case. These kind of large grooves in here, add this kind of aggressive look to it. Obviously suggests if there's water on here, they would get wicked away very quickly. It's very thick but soft and comfortable. It really works the aesthetic. It is very thick though, and you can see, that actually overhangs my wrist quite a bit. So, you do have to be aware of that. Obviously, you could put any number of straps on here, but that is a very nice strap that it comes with. And it's mounted on this really awesome deployment clasp. This is one of the coolest clasps I think I've ever seen on a watch. It's big and bulky, but it's so well machined. It's very sturdy, big Dievas here. And, you open it by popping the clasp like that, It's very secure, and then there is actually also a diver extension built in. That's really great if you plan on going diving with this and you have a wetsuit on. It's also, just so easy to get on and off. Really, really, really great design there. Like I said, it's a great strap. Altogether, that is it's a beautiful piece. But they actually include the watch with a second strap. This yellow waterproof leather strap. If it hadn't been there, I wouldn't have missed it. I don't really understand what exactly they were going for with this, because it doesn't really match the yellow there. I think black with bright yellow stitching would have been a more kind of welcome accompaniment. But yeah, you do have this with the watch as well. To wrap up my thoughts on the Dievas Shadow, it's this really, really cool watch. It doesn't, quite look like any other watch out there because of its, unique, shockingly bright day glow hands. The case you might be familiar with. You can see that on some other watches, but watches that actually cost quite a bit more money. So I think for what you're paying, $1,450, though it's certainly not cheap, you're getting this watch that is built like a watch that is, would be quite a bit more money. Watches by brands like Sin or Damasco or Cobalt, who, I think for something with hardened steel, DLC coating, regulated movements, you're really talking well over $2,000 for one of those. So this is actually a really great kind of entry into those super robust German tactical watches. I think if the styling of this watch isn't quite you, it is quite extreme. I think it's very cool, but it's so extreme and it might be a little bit more limiting aesthetically. They do have watches like the Focal, which also are this tegimented steel, but it's a much more kind of a classic design with a matte steel case and so forth. So yeah, please read the full review on Worn and Wound. Follow us on Facebook, Tumblr, and Twitter. Thank you.